Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spiritual Journey podcast. My name is Nimesh and I'm your host. I always love starting every episode by saying thank you. I feel so blessed with this podcast. I started it as a passion project. Really, my intention was to simplify spirituality and guide people on the journey. I started with doing maybe one episode every month or two. Now we release 2 episodes a week. And with the messages I receive, I can clearly see it's making an impact. People find it when they need it most. So if you're a regular listener, thank you. Welcome back. If you're new, welcome. Let us know if you have any feedback. And anybody had any suggestions as to topics we should cover or things we should do differently, please let me know. I am an Akashic record reader, Akashic trainer, podcast host, podcast creator, as well as a spiritual coach and mentor. And what I get to do is I get to guide you on your journey. I get to help you to understand who you are at your core, releasing any programming you have, and really kind of helping you understand your light, your purpose. And I'm ready to here to hold your space. I don't tell anybody what to do. And I do that through a beautiful mentorship program, through Akashic record reading, through this podcast, so many different ways. And my voice resonates, reach out. Maybe I'm meant to guide you. You can book a free discovery call. I'll take you through what I do. As part of this podcast, I get to interview some amazing, amazing, beautiful guests. And I'm excited to have Louise with me today. Louise, I've known Louise for a couple of years now. I had the blessing and the pleasure to guide her through both phases of spiritual mentorship. I've seen her shine a light so beautifully. I'm so proud of her, of anything that she's doing, how she's shining a light. And I'm excited to have her with me today. So Louise, I'd love for you to introduce yourself in your words. Over to you.
Hi, Nimesh. Thank you for having me here today. I'm a house whispering consultant, Akashic record reader, and spiritual mentor coach. And I just feel so lucky to get to do what I can do, and help people.
Beautiful, beautiful. And obviously we know each other well, and I feel like there's a real push on the planet for a lot of us to be seen and to be heard. And I know we've talked about it for a little while for you to be on this podcast. And how does it feel for you to feel the nudge to be seen, to be heard in a different sort of way? How does that feel to you?
Yeah, I definitely feel it. I feel like the time is right. There were a lot of things that were holding me back before, namely quite a lot in the 3D human world. And so now just feels exactly the right time. And does seem to be an energy for me to get on and do it. And if I don't, I know my guides are going to be like, come on, you've got to get on with it.
I love it. And that nudge. So tell me, before we dive into your story, I'd love for you to share a little bit. What do you feel about the current energy? I always kind of love starting the conversation that way. I feel like I said, there's a real push for us to be seen, to be heard. You've heard me talk about a shift from divine masculine to divine feminine. I feel like there's a real shift on the planet. What are you feeling?
I definitely feel that push. I feel like there's a forward energy for people to really open up now and, to shine their light, to do that deep healing, but also to share their talents. And I feel it myself, and I feel like a lot of people going through it. Yes, in the 3D world, there is a lot going on that could draw your attention away from it, but I feel like it's important to stay present and be concerned about you and how your journey, what you're doing. And it doesn't have to be big things. Small things can impact people as deeply as the big showy things.
I love it. I couldn't agree more. It's that, there's a pressure to allow the noise on the planet to consume you, but the more that you can focus on you, the more that you can be present, the more that you can stand in your power. I couldn't agree more. So thank you for that. I'd love for you to share more about your story, your journey, anything that's in your heart that you feel that would help the listener. Tell us about Louise.
Well, before I came to you, I was experiencing a real sort of dark night of the soul, and a lot of things had started to go wrong for me. I'd made a move to Hampshire, and my skin, my health was like really terrible. I couldn't sleep. I was in a real, I think, stress situation. There was a build I was doing on my home that was everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. And since then, I have had to unpick everything and redo everything that they'd done. And yeah, so that took a long time. And that's also just a stressful thing in itself. I had a van crash into me, and then I also had trouble with the sun. And all those things compounded just made me realize I've got to do something about this. I cannot continue doing what I'm doing. I can't hold it all. I was trying to hold so much. And I also had the story of, older parents, trying to look after them. And I think I was trying to do so much for everyone else. I didn't even think about myself. And so I took up a counsellor. I came to see you. And that's when my healing journey really started. I think there was deep healing that I was doing as a human with my counsellor. There were patterns that I needed to get out of, and she helped me see them. And then I knew that I didn't just want to do the counselling. I needed that spiritual element. I had always been interested in it. When I was younger, I had connected with tarot and astrology. Then in my 30s, I had connected with angels. And I realised through any tricky time in my life, I had gone to the spiritual, but I had not been consistent. And this time I knew I needed to do this for myself and for my soul, really. And so you and I feel like I went on a very deep journey, understanding my marriage breaking up at that point. And then at that point, it was just, wow, the things that I saw were and understood about his and our relationship made the journey easier, actually, because I was able to see it from a much bigger picture than just this life. And so we had we had traveled through the ages, and I needed to learn. It was a karmic relationship that needed to heal for me. And what he does is up to him, really. And that's when I connected to the Akashic Records, and I could see clearly the soul contracts that I had had. There's, with him, my mother, and also my son, who I was finding tricky at the time. And, I think those were my greatest teachers, and I chose them. And it's good to understand that, although they were really hard, and I'd never really understood that until this point. And so, yeah, it was interesting. It's a very sort of tough journey to go through.
Yeah. It's interesting you call it interesting, right? I mean, and the way you describe soul contracts is beautiful. And I guess that just the human struggles with the pain and the learnings of the soul contracts. Our soul picks the soul contract, right? So it's just an interesting journey. But let's kind of dive a bit deeper. I'd love for you to talk more about the dark night of the soul. If somebody feels like they're going through that right now, what would your advice be?
I feel like you really need to stop and take stock of what's going on. And the things that helped me were journaling and just really understanding. You can almost look back and see what you're saying, really, and whether you're in a victim mode or, we have to be accountable for ourselves in this life. You're not going to answer to anyone else but yourself and your own soul. So it's good to really know that there is more out there and that there are guides helping you through this period. And the thing is that I think about my dark night of the soul is that they were waking me up and knocking me and saying, come on, wake up. You haven't been doing what you need to be doing. You need to get on it now. And so when you can understand that, you willingly go and do the work because it's going to help you.
Yeah, and look, if we're realistic with it, the work that we've done, sometimes there is a resistance, right? It's the human, just like it's a journey, but it's just when you go through the dark night of the soul, when you start opening yourself up to being helped, that's when the help shows up, right? So how did that feel for you to kind of found the therapist, the counselor that you worked with, and kind of the soul contract that comes with that? I know you found me through the podcast. How did it feel like for you to ask for help and start to receiving help when you were ready to receive it? What was that journey like?
It just feels like such a relief. I cried loads. You don't realize how much you're holding on to until you start talking about what you've been through. And it's just a big relief that you're not holding that by yourself and that you have someone that you can turn to. Because quite often, I think in my patterns, I was like, no, I've got to hold everybody. And I think that can be a typical thing that a mother would do. You hold everybody else. And I'm in that kind of age group where parents are getting older. You feel responsible for everyone, but you don't look after yourself properly. And to feel held by other people, there's no shame in that.
Yeah, and it's powerful to ask for help. So if you listen to this and you're going through something, there is a lot of help out there, and if you can afford mentorship, then go for it. If you can, but there's also a lot of resources available online. So you don't have to do this alone, I guess, is the message, right? Especially now, I feel like we're all going through a shit. So ask for help. And for me, the biggest thing is being open to it, right? Asking your guides and whatever you believe is out there supporting you for the right people. And if you're open to it, I feel like the right people show up.
Yeah, and I definitely feel like that business about being present, if you can do meditation, you feel that does get you more in the present. There's no denying it. I know people say, oh, I can't do it. No, you could just do 5 minutes or 10 minutes and take a deep breath and do that for yourself. I do think it's an amazing thing to be able to do.
So, I guess I need to ask, how did it feel? I mean, if you can remember back when you started listening to this podcast and kind of reaching out, and how do you remember how that felt for you in terms of?
I listened to your podcast for about a year before, and I knew there were people that I wanted to work with, and you were one of them. I don't know. I feel like that's a soul calling.
Sure.
I
A divine timing.
resonated with your voice, and I knew. Yeah, I just had a knowing inside, but it did take me a year, and I think I did a record reading with you and Stacey, like maybe half a year before I started working with you. And I knew I wanted to work with you. And I just had that thing, like, it's just so good. Your connection to the other, the spirit and your guides. I just knew I needed to know about that.
It's interesting. It's like, I feel like, if you listen to the podcast regularly, you hear me talk about Cedra. Cedra was my friend, my mentor in the human realm. She passed away in a fire in March 2020, age only 38. And I feel like she guides people to me. It's like,
Well, there was,
I feel that. I feel like I have
yeah.
people message me saying, I was driving along and never met her, but I felt Sidra sit next to me on the journey. And it's like, I feel she gets around and she helps too, right? So,
I definitely agree. I've got a really funny story. When I first went into the records, you were teaching me how to go into the records. And And when I walked in and I could see your bright light, you said to me, I want to see if you can connect to my guides. And then I could feel Sidra fluttering around me. And then she
As
flew
she
into
does.
my heart. She flew in straight into my heart. And I was like almost taken aback. And yeah, she was fluttering around in there, I think opening up my heart center. And which had always been protected. And I just thought it was a beautiful thing. And yeah, and then also at that point I knew, oh my goodness, the Akashic Records, they're amazing. That's I'm not making that up, I can really feel that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so beautiful. And just so everyone knows, the way that I connect people with the records is over 3 sessions. One is you get to receive a reading. Second is you open your own energy, your own vibration, your own records, and I guide you through that. And third is you get to open my records, and that way you get to feel different energies, different vibrations. And for me, when I started opening other people's records, when things started opening up even, so I'm really, really glad you got to experience that energy and that vibration. You get to
Yeah.
feel what I feel when I connect with Siddhar's energy all the time. So I love it. I love it.
Yeah, definitely.
I'd love to dive into soul contracts a bit more, and I feel like your insights, your journeys to accept the pain that comes from some soul contracts, and to actually then have the revelation that you picked them. I feel like that would help some of the listeners to tell us about your journey with soul contracts and kind of understanding how they expand you, teach you, and how you chose.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting, and you mostly taught me about that. And I think definitely had such a strong soul contract with my ex-husband there. And I would see visions and just have deep understanding that we had traveled through the ages and, you know, had were learning similar things that we were learning in this lifetime. And in a way, it was very human of me, but I just didn't want to go and do it again. So,
That's fair. That's fair.
so I wanted to understand it, and they would come through in different ways, maybe through the Akashic Records, through meditation, and yeah. So, and then what happened with a lot of people used to say to me, "Oh, you're taking that divorce really well, and you don't look stressed at all." And the thing is, whilst I had like a lot of things going on, and it was some of the moments were horrible, I was able to understand them from a soul level and understand that what I was going through here was just deepening me and my resolve to have that divorce, because it's quite hard to go through that. And so I feel like, yeah, connect to someone who you resonate with, and you can sort of start to really understand your journey with this other person. It could be friendships too. And like I say, I saw it with my mother as well. So, yeah.
I love that, and it's just sometimes I'm very conscious that on this podcast I make things sound sound simple and easy. Actually, sometimes I feel like the spiritual journey is simple, never easy. And when you're through it, and you're through the other side, you kind of do you remember the pain, but actually you remember the growth more. But I just want to remind people that I feel like in this lifetime we're closing a lot of cycles. So I mean, Louise is talking about her relationship with an ex, and talking about how it's not just about this life. So I feel like we're closing a lot of cycles, and when you have deep soul contracts that span multiple lives, it is gonna be a painful journey to finish that. Sorry, it may be a painful journey to finish that cycle, but knowing that you're never going to get anything you can't handle, I feel is important. So what would your advice be to somebody that maybe is going through some relationship challenges, whether it be a partner, whether it be a child, whether it be anybody, that maybe is a deep soul contract? What would you advise them?
I would look for help, because those things are sent here to help us grow. And if you don't feel like you can do it on your own, then definitely look for help, someone who you resonate with. But equally, you can start out by journaling, meditation. Those were my key two things. And yeah, there's lots of resources out there, aren't there?
Yeah.
Definitely, I listen to loads of podcasts. Like I listen to yours, and lots of other ones, and I got to understand things that way. You could read books about it. You don't have to just have a counselor and a spiritual mentor. You can do it yourself. And I had looked into that like a lot. And so, yeah, I think whatever you feel called to is right for you.
Beautiful.
And that will take you down the path of learning.
Yeah. No, I love that. I mean, I guess the thing I'd add to it is sit with that soul contract and ask what your lesson is.
True.
Because, kind of increasing your awareness and understanding, maybe even feeling the lessons that you have from that soul. Because when you increase your awareness, you start to understand it more, and that's when maybe you connect with the resources that need to help you. It's that, always look inside you for the answers first, I guess, is what I'd say. Is because there is, your brain probably won't figure it out, because we try and figure things out in our brain, right? Whereas it's your heart and soul that knows the previous soul contract. Your brain doesn't, right? So,
True
I mean,
enough. I do
it's a
think
leap
it's
of faith,
hard.
right?
I do think it's hard to see it yourself. I mean,
Yeah.
for me, I know it was good to connect with you and to see that bigger picture.
Yeah. And start with maybe most people start with an Akashic record reading, to understand their soul contracts more, and then who knows, right? But for sure, look for help, look for that person that resonates. This phase is expansive, it's challenging, right? I feel like a lot of us are entering soul contracts, and so it's a sign of strength to ask for help. So with the work we did together, kind of phase one was really kind of deep internal work. Let's share more about what that experience is like. You talked about soul contracts, but coming into your power, understanding your strength, and your ability to connect with your guides through that phase one. How did that feel?
Well, I came to phase one and I just wanted to be fixed, really. I just wanted the solution there. You do it, But no, I had to do the hard work. And it was hard. I was going through a lot of things. And so it did feel I was able to have that connection to my guides. You showed me how to do that and really reflect properly about what was going on. Yeah, so, and it felt like an unfolding of just being more present, being able to understand how things were happening, and yeah, like day to day stuff would get on top of me, and I just I don't know. I guess I was able to deal with that better in a better way, in a more present way.
Beautiful, beautiful. And you talk about connecting with your guides. How does that feel today? And what would your advice be to somebody who wants to connect and build a deeper connection with your guides, with their guides?
Yeah, it feels like a leap of faith, doesn't it? In a way, it's
Mm.
tricky to feel them, and when you first start, you're like, "What's he talking about? Uh, no, I don't understand that." And And then as you go through the work, you realize they show up in so many different ways. They're sending you messages, and that's how I was able to realize that dark night of the soul was them crashing in on me. And so they send you little messages. They can send you messages by synchronicities. So now when I connect, I can feel their energy now. I feel them around me, but I also ask for them to help me and help me do this, help me do that, and have that total faith that they're there for me.
I mean, that's what I mean by sometimes I feel spirituality is simple. It's like, asking for help. We've already talked about it twice. One, asking for help in the human realm and looking for help. But also, sometimes I feel like we assume our guides know when we need help. And I always like to remind people that, look, not all of our guides have been human. And many times we have to ask for help. And we have to be open to that help coming in different forms. And just asking, just in this moment, if you're listening and you feel isolated and you feel like you're just closing your eyes and just calling your guides and saying, please help me. I feel that simple act and being open to help. Because a lot of the time we manifest our reality. And it's that, if we keep saying to ourselves, I can do this, I can get through this on my own, or I'm all alone, or, whatever we focus on expands. So, if we focus on being on our own and kind of having tried everything on our own, our guides think, okay, that's what we want. But when we stop and we ask for help in both the human and the other realms and be open to it, then maybe that's a game changer. So, so tell us more about, you say you feel your guides. Do you see them? Do you feel them? Do you hear them? Again, I'm curious if your experience can help some of our listeners. So tell
I
us
think
about
I
your
may.
journey.
Yeah, I mostly feel them. I feel them around me. I get a hot feeling, and then I know that they're there. Sometimes I'll wake up from dreams and I've seen them, or from meditations and I've got had visions, and so then I know that they've come in through my visions, and it's almost like the third eye, isn't it? I'm in that liminal place where they can show me them there. But yeah, on the most part, I know I can feel them around, and I can call them in.
Yeah, and again, that's an important message I feel for our listeners, is that a lot of the time it begins with feeling, and it is a leap of faith, right? So whatever you feel around you, your ego might say to you, making it up, but who cares? If you feel something, feel it. If your ego tells you you're being crazy, okay, thank you, ego. I love the magic of it. There's a lot of magic out there with our guides. So, one of the things that always makes me smile about you is when, certainly in phase one, we'd have a conversation. I'd channel a message from somewhere to just say, oh, you know what, I feel this is coming up for you, and then we'd be like, okay, sure, and then somewhere along the line, something would happen. You'd be like, shit, maybe I should have listened to him sooner. But anyway, and I'm not, I'm just, it's your guides. It comes through your guides. They channel through me. But I'm just, it always makes me smile when you say that. So I'd love for you to share what that feels like.
So funny. There were several times I can talk about. There was once when I was like, right, okay, I'm going to leave my husband. This is like, and I said, oh, I'm going to do it at this particular point. And I was like, I've got it all worked out, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think it's going to be sooner. It's like, no way. And then it did come up sooner, and it was, it was just, you can't predict it. I mean, like me as a human, I just wanted to be able to control everything. And I wasn't listening to my guides, and you were listening to them. So great. Thanks for that. And I think there was another time. Yeah, what was that? Oh, yes. There was another time, and it was again a similar sort of situation. It was like, okay, well, no, we're not going to tell the kids until, later on. when they've finished their GCSEs or whatever, and they found out in the weirdest way, and it would have been so much better if I'd just listened to you and gone with it rather than yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
doing it happening the way it happened. But that's just it. Now I trust you, and you're my guides.
I think you've always
Uh,
trusted me. It's a different, yeah. But it's you know, but maybe things were meant to happen. It's just it's really interesting that you know, we had the best of intentions. You had the best of intentions. You know, it's like your kids were going through GCSEs, and for our international listeners, that's exams that was it 16-year-olds have to take. So
yeah. Hmm.
so and of course you had the best of intentions. You know what, the exams are pressurized. Let's let them finish that, and then we can reform them and all that sort of stuff. But it's great when our plans come through. Sometimes it's better, even better when they don't, because it means that God's universe's plans come through. And I think the thing we need to realize is we're not here to stop other people's pain. And if you think about our pain and how much we grew from it, and I'm sure your kids, that was their destiny to kind of learn that way. And easy for me to say, but to when you separate, it's or even when you go through something painful, the people around you are affected too, right? Even though you want to
Mm.
protect them, um, but everything is a co-creation. I mean, how does that feel, knowing that that the people around you are going through pain too?
I mean, traditionally, I wanted to just be able to prevent that pain. Now I know it's part of their story, and I can't stop it. And it is particular to children because you love them so much and you want to help them, but actually what you're doing is you're preventing them from learning what they need to learn and their growth
Yeah,
around it.
I mean, I agree. If you think about all the inner child stuff that's coming up for a lot of people, it's really when going through childhood, you push things down, and but eventually it comes out, right? So
Mm.
and you mentioned your kids being also one of your biggest trainers. What does that feel like?
It feels amazing. I just feel it feels amazing where they picked me to be their mum, and they picked this journey, and I feel like great. I love it. Thanks. I'm here to learn. And they do come out, they're teenagers. They don't come out with the best stuff sometimes, to me. But then I always feel, oh well, that means I'm the closest person. They wouldn't feel safe enough to do that with anyone else. So yeah, I think you can see the positives in it.
I love it. Love it. It reminds me. I'm just about after this. I'm going to record a podcast with Stace, and the title I've picked is how does your life feel about the decisions your soul made? So I'm curious, how does a human feel about the decisions your soul made?
In many ways, I wish I'd come here earlier. I'd got to this point earlier, but everything in its own time. And yeah, I feel so lucky that I got here and I am where I am. And don't get me wrong, I don't think I'm done. I feel like there's more learning to be had and more growth to be had. And I think that will deepen. I just feel like I've got a good tool set now.
That's the key. You've got the tools to be able to deal with it, right? But were there times you had a conversation with your soul, and part of my language, you ask your soul, "What the fuck? You know,
Many
why did we
times.
pick this? How did that
Yeah.
feel?" And by the way, I'd recommend that to everybody: is have a conversation with your soul. What were you thinking when we picked this life? I mean, I do that all the time. So, how was that conversation with your soul when you kind of like?
Yeah, many times I was like, the hell? Why did we? How have I got here? What? I sometimes, and even still recently, I'm like, what more? You want me to do more? Uh, yeah, but I'm here for it.
Love it. I love it. So look, phase one of your journey was really doing that deep internal work. Phase two was really about you connecting with your light, learning some new modalities, learning and accepting that your light is impacts other people, and kind of activating, I guess, the healer in you. Tell us what that was like.
Yeah, I mean, it's an opening up. You're opening up to, well, like I said, I wanted you to just tell me what my soul mission was, and then we're done. I can just follow that. Great. No, I had to find out myself. And the signs and the things were there all along. I just found them at the right
Because
time,
we
I
expect our
guess.
life to be a straight line, right? And it never is.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, go on.
I followed the signs, and I was like, oh, I fancy doing that. So I'd go ahead and do it. And I had so many just amazing experiences. Like you say, it's magic connecting to the universe. There was just so many. I'll just be like, wow, that's incredible. I was doing angelic Reiki, and I was like having visions of the other world and things that I just knew I'd already been there, and I connected, and I'd used that healing ability before. And even doing the angelic Reiki on people, just amazing energy came through, and they were the reaction that you get, and so yeah, it's just amazing. You can help people. And same with the mentorship program, like you could see people changing through the process of doing mentoring with other people, and that excitement, and just, yeah, being able to connect and help them in ways and have those visions for them that they could then connect to. It feels amazing to be able to do that. And then I saw house whispering, and I was like, yeah, this is me. In my life, I'd studied architecture. I had had an interior design business. I had done loads of housing development. So I knew that there was something there for me. And even when I was designing, creating, I would always connect through my crown for other ideas. And so, I'd known that from a young age. And then when this house whispering came up, I was like, yeah, this is me. I want to do it. I want to learn
Love
more. I know you were laughing at me going, you don't need to do more. You're like, you've got
No,
enough.
you
But I
trusted it. Yeah,
really,
yeah, yeah.
I wanted to do it. And it took a year. It was just it's just a magical course. And I just, there were other guides that came in, like house whispering guides, and just help me, and just help me see things as I go through. And so, yeah, it's been fantastic and really exciting, and I just love it.
I love it. I love your energy when you talk about it. So tell us more. What is house whispering?
Basically, everyone know when you go in a home, there may well be different feelings, and you'll feel it. You might not put a word to it, but you'll have a different feeling. You could go into a new build home and it'll feel a bit soulless. Well, what you're seeing and understanding there is like, yeah, that's been created by a developer. They haven't really put their soul into it. They're just boom, 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 putting out houses. And so, you could be in a home where there's loads of history, and could be paranormal activity, and maybe you don't want that in there anymore, and you're living with it. And this is how your inner world is reflecting to your outer world. There may well be past life stories, definitely a soul contract with your home. The home has a spirit, and without the spirit, it's that like kind of new build home that doesn't have it. So I will go, and I'll just connect to the home, connect to you, and see what's going on. And I'll do that through the records, do it dowsing, use feng shui, and just use, different modalities to find out what's happening for you. And then we'll go into a deep consultation, finding out about that. When we've got to that, we'll clear the home, and you really come to a resolution. This is what's going on. And there might be things that you want to do. So you might want to find a partner, you might just want to clear a paranormal, a ghost that you think you've got.
You make it sound so normal.
Yeah, but there's lots of different things could be going on. Just something feels off, or a build hasn't has gone wrong. And I found this out from my own property. This build had gone wrong, and normally everything used to work for me, but this was part of my awakening. So yeah, there's lots of things that could come up, and we just explore that over a normally 2-3 hour session. Then at the end of that, we'll do a clearing, and then a deep meditation to connect your heart to the heart of the home, and any sort of visions for yourself that you want. And yeah, we can do that over 2 or 3 sessions, depending on what's required. And then what I found is it's just deep things start to happen for people in between times that I've seen them that have never happened, to them before, and are the things that they wanted to happen. So it's a really powerful consultation, and yeah, it's good.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like one of the things that's important to mention is the home is an extension of you, right? So the energies, the vibrations, the history of the home picks you. You pick the home. And the reason I kind of, when we talked about you doing this, I was like, well, because you can open the Akashic Records of a home too, right? So I feel like you tap into the energy and it's just, but a couple of things you mentioned is a good reminder through this whole conversation is that, you have to do the work. And I feel like it's important to remind people that, is that sometimes we look for a quick fix. So even, getting a Akashic record reading, and it's all about helping you, guiding you to you, because your answers are inside you. And I would highly recommend doing the house whispering. Louise has done a reading on my home, and it was super insightful. And get it done, but realize that your answers, your journey, these things give you beautiful insights to you. And I love the fact house whispering. And actually, we'll probably release this after the retreat. But I included, kind of house whispering in the retreat that's coming up in a couple of weeks, because I feel like it's such a beautiful extension to you. The Sidra called my place, Merlin, House of Ascension, and I feel so held here because of all the healing I've done. And it's kind of like, if you're not attached to your home in that kind of way, then maybe it's time to dive into the deeper energy that's there. And if Louise resonates, then sure. I'm sure there's others who do the same, but I've not heard many people talk about house whispering, which is kind of what tweaked my interest. But tell us how you were guided to different modalities. Obviously, I guided you to Akashic Records. Angelic Reiki you did before we began or during. I can't remember exactly when. And modalities don't define who we are, right? For me, modalities are things that we have on the shelf that we can pull on to heal ourselves. And if you're not watching on YouTube, I'm pretending there's a shelf in front of me, picking different modalities. But I feel like our light, our energy, our vibration, that's the gift. That's the gift of who we are. But I do feel like picking the modalities that are natural to us are important. So how did you pick the different modalities? How did they feel to you? How were you drawn to them?
Definitely. I just wanted to say, just to go back on what you said there, you have to do the work. Like, I'll help you, but nothing's going to happen if you don't do it. And sometimes it could be the case that there's a partner. We have to find out who the soul contract of the home is with. So you might not be able to just do it on your own. You might have to do it with your partner. It's going to be more powerful if you do, because you're living together. And yeah, so your question on how did I find my modalities? I felt like I'd always been connected to the angels. And actually, that's not one that I use. I just use it as part of the spiritual mentoring or the house whispering, I use it, you know. So I always felt like I'd been connected to the angels, and once I'd done it, I realized how connected I was, and I'd seen past lives where they had saved me from certain situations, and it was really deep. And so it did deepen my own practice. And I had, like I said, I had visions, and so yeah, I just loved it. And then I think, what were the house whispering again? It just felt like a connection. I knew there was like a fizzing in the air. It felt like I've got to do this. I've got to make it happen. I want to do this. And yeah, the modalities, yeah, they don't define you. They don't, but they help you get deeper into your connection to the universe or your guides, and I think that can be important,
Right.
like, because we've come from a place where we don't trust ourselves in the human world, and I didn't, and I feel like now I completely trust myself, and I feel like I've got a whole massive team behind me helping me, and that has helped me connect to that team, the modalities that I've used. So yeah, I feel like it's really important
I
to
love it.
do that.
Love it. And I guess I'd say, always checking with your intention. I mean, if your intention is to learn a new modality because you want to be fixed, that maybe is wrong. If you feel, again, how does it make you feel? If it feels like it's something that your soul feels naturally connected to, then sure, do it. It's that intention for me that's important. Because I do feel like we've said it a few times that people just want to be fixed, right? Especially, you know, tell me, I've done it before. You know, give me a meditation, give me a course, and all of a sudden I'll be fixed. You know, we're a soul having a human experience, so that human experience to go through, then expand, release, understand, shine a light. That's the journey we picked, right? There's no bypassing. So I'd love to for you to talk with, you know, as we get near the end, more about Akashic Records. What was the journey with the records for you? You know, in terms of
Well, actually,
receiving your
yeah,
own reading and then
it
kind of
was so deep as well. I started before I even met you. I knew I did a YouTube thing on connecting to the records, and I was on a beach in Bondi, as you are, or in
wow,
Australia,
okay.
something, as you
If
are.
you're gonna
Yeah,
do that somewhere, then
it's
you
like
know,
I'm just going to go to the beach. I'm going to
as you
do this.
do, yeah, fly to
Yeah,
Australia, go to
yeah.
Bondi Beach.
No, I was so surprised. I was like, yeah, that's just what a prayer. You just open prayer. And I had this healing come in, and it felt like all the way down my spine, this like massive light come through. So it's like, oh, okay, I've got to learn this properly. This is like, feels, I don't know why I think I had to learn it properly. I mean, it was there, wasn't it, all
I love it. Yeah,
along?
exactly.
But then it happened that I was working with you, and you offered to do the reading, and I'd had that experience with Sidra, and obviously gone into your records, and it was just so bright and amazing. And yeah, so, and when I'd gone and practiced with people, I had seen different things in everybody's records. No one is the same. Nobody. I had seen fairies, I had seen, you know, beings and just different things. And I don't know, over time, you just recognize this is, I'm doing this, this is real. This is, you know, because you always sort of, that whole business about, I don't trust myself, I don't trust, is this real? Am I making this up? And actually, no, trust, you aren't making it up. It's true, it's working. And I can only do that on reflection, having
Yeah,
seen
of
that.
course.
At the
Yeah.
time, I was like, well, yeah, okay, that's just a fluke or whatever. But
Yeah,
yeah,
and
so,
I did the same. You know,
oh,
there's
did you?
your mind plays tricks on you, right? It's like, am I making this up? You just feel it.
Yeah, you did actually always say that to me, just
And
go with it if that's what you see. And so, yeah, I feel like that's been good to learn
yeah,
that.
I mean, the way I describe it is we all have access to records, right? I feel like a soul has a natural connection to records. Sometimes we just need to help the human remember that. So I don't feel like I train anybody on the records, I feel like I remind the soul. I remind the human what the soul already knows. So, and if my voice resonates, I can guide you. But also, as Louise said, she found something on YouTube. There's prayers available online. Again, I would just ask your intention. So if you're going to jump into the records, for me, the records aren't about getting all the answers. For me, the records are about building a strong connection to my team, my guides, other realms. And sure, if the answers come through at the same time, why not?
Yeah, I mean, when I started, and I did it with you and Stacey, and then all these sort of past lives came through. I thought, wow, that's exciting! Oh, past lives, I've had loads. But then I started to think, oh, but what does that mean for me? And then you're like, okay, I need to know more. That doesn't mean anything. Oh, yeah, so I had a life here, a life there. I wanted to understand those sort of deeper connections, I think. It's more interesting.
I love it. And you go on a journey, but it's sometimes past lives come up in a reading just to release the karma from that life. I feel like sometimes we get into, if I understand my past lives more, then I'll understand this life more. Yeah, sometimes. But sometimes the
I
clues are in this
understand what
life
you're.
too, right?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, because I'd had before that, I'd had all these dreams from young, where I was like in water all the time. I used to see strange fish, everything. I was like, what's that? What's that? And once I'd had the reading with you, and I think Stacey had said, oh, you had a life as a whale or something. And then I was like, those visions, those things never came back. That was that. I was like, oh, I understand.
Yeah.
I've been seeing a life that I saw before. I had before. I
And you
don't
carry
need to
karma.
see.
Yeah, we carry karma. But sometimes, oh my God, what was that life when I drowned? What does that mean? Sometimes just tapping into that life, releasing the karma, allows you to. It's our mind that wants all the answers to everything, right?
Yeah. And I just love, we went in, didn't we? And I saw our life together in Egypt. I just think it's fun,
It's fun too, right?
So
Exactly, it's
it's
fun.
good to understand that we had
Yeah.
we known each other.
That's what a soul contract feels like. When you meet somebody and you feel that attachment, it's like maybe you had a past life together. Maybe there's a deeper, and you start to explore that and have fun with it. It doesn't have to be serious, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So Louise, as we start to close out, I am so proud of you. I mean, I love, I love the full circle of things, right? You started working with me X number of years ago, getting a reading, going through mentorship, but you started finding me by listening to this podcast. How does it feel for you to go through everything you've been through and kind of be on the podcast where our connection started? How does that feel for you?
I mean, I'm super excited. I think thank you for having me. I love it.
I love it. And
Yeah.
you know what? Thank you for one, trusting me, and two, actually being brave for being on this podcast, because it's out your comfort zone, and you're very natural. You came through, so I want to, congratulations for all the work that you've done, for shining your light. I'd love for you to, as we close out, just share our people. I'm obviously, I include the links in the show notes. By the way, House Whispering, just so everyone knows, you don't have to be there physically; you can do it online. But yeah, I'd love for you to share. How do people find you, and what services and support can you offer them?
I can I've got a website. My website is louisechong.com, and on that are all my services, the House Whispering, and you can do a 30-minute discovery call with me just to see if I resonate with you. No pressure. I just love talking about you in your home. I find it fascinating, and so if you want to have a discovery call with me, that's great. I do Akashic record reading, and also spiritual mentoring. And the spiritual mentoring is so deep, as we've been talking about it today. It's just really deep work, and I feel honoured to be able to do it.
Beautiful. If you listen to this episode in you feel like ready to go on this journey, then you know what? Maybe you're meant to go with me. Maybe you're meant to go in with Louise, right? Whatever resonates, whoever resonates, reach out. And so, Louise, any final bits of wisdom that are coming to your heart before we close? Anything you want to share with our listeners?
I just think you are right exactly where you are now. And if you're feeling a calling to move on, then, or, if you're feeling a calling, follow that calling, follow where your heart goes. It's an amazing, magical journey.
Beautiful. Thank you, Louise. Thank you for being here. Thank you for allowing me to guide you. And to all our to listeners, thank you for being here. Thank you for allowing our voice to guide you. If anything in this episode resonated, please let us know. And reach out, follow Louise on social media, send her a message. Please do follow, comment on this episode, this podcast. It really does help. Sending love, and light out to everybody. And see you very soon. Bye for now.